Hello people, I am Jaby KOAY, and this is my follow-up video to the review we put out of Zero a few days ago. So I'm going to be going over some of the comments you guys left. I'll be going over some of the positive things I didn't get to in my initial review. And the main reason that I am doing this video is because I feel like I came off a little bit harsh in that initial review. I felt that the day after I put the video out, I was just kind of reflecting on it. It had nothing to do with any comments. I was just thinking about it and I was like, I didn't get to everything I wanted to say, and I was influenced by a section of the film, and it kind of turned my attitude into a negative one the entire time I was doing my review, and I didn't really express everything I wanted to express. So it came off like I hated the movie, but I didn't. I actually appreciated a lot about it. Would I change my score? Not necessarily, but I do think I could have handled that review better and maybe even more professionally, and I don't think I did. So I want to apologize to you guys for doing that, and I know most of you don't feel that I did anything wrong. I looked at the votes, I looked at the comments, and most of you guys were in favor of the video, but I still personally felt like I could have handled the video better. So that's why this one is here, in addition to being able to respond to some of your thoughts that you left in the comments. Before we get into the main part of the video, I wanted to go over a couple of things and my prefaces that I wanted to share with you guys. Everything I'm about to say in this little section, most of you guys are already aware of, but for those of you that don't, for the few of you that don't know this, I'm gonna say it. The first most important thing is whenever I'm doing a review, I am sharing with you my experience with the movie. I have limitations that are known. I don't speak any Indian languages, so whenever I watch an Indian film, there is that language barrier. I didn't grow up in India, I grew up in the States, so I have my American sensibilities that I'm bringing to my viewing experience, and so there's a cultural barrier. Those are two huge barriers, and so I'm getting everything off of subtitles and off of the body language that the actors are giving in the film, the way the director's shooting it. You know, I'm getting whatever I can as a foreigner. And so sometimes people hold that against me. I see in the comments, and it's like, really, you can't. It's kind of known. If you're watching my review, you'll already know that I'm gonna have that barrier, that limitation. And so my review, what makes my review different from someone who's from India or speaks the language and grew up there, is that it's the outsider looking in. It's with these limitations in mind, how do I feel about the film? How does it come off to me? How does it express itself to me given these limitations? And so hopefully you guys who feel frustrated that I don't get all the nuances kind of understand that going forward. And if you don't, you might just continue to get frustrated whenever you watch my trailer reactions or movie reviews. So another thing, I'm shooting this on my webcam so that I can show you guys the comments while I'm responding to it. So the quality might not be great, and I don't think I'm gonna be editing this video at all. So it's gonna be very raw and therefore probably longer. I apologize in advance. Let's see, I always go into a film rooting for it. Some of you guys were accusing me in the comments of favoring Yash or favoring KGF, rooting for it, or I was paid off by Yash or the people who made KGF. I wasn't paid off by anybody. I paid to watch both of those movies, and I'm rooting for both of them. I want SRK's film to do well. I want Yash's film to do well. And so I'm aware of what SRK has been going through in terms of, the films he's put out in the past few years. They haven't been doing as great as they did in his formative years. So I go in wanting it to do great. I go in wanting the film to be amazing. And, it's like whether it is or isn't my fault. I can only, share with you guys my experience with the movie. So I just wanted to say that part to let you know I'm not playing favorites to anybody. I want everyone to do great. So Anushka Sharma's acting was a big thing that people commented on because I said that I liked it. And going back to my limitations with language, from my limited perspective, within the confines of my ability to watch the film, I appreciated her acting. And in my defense, she trained pretty hard for the film. And also in my defense, there is a wide variety of ways to play someone with cerebral palsy. It doesn't manifest itself in just one way. If you watch Kalki Koechl's version, that's one version. If you watch the way the kid did it in the show Breaking Bad, that's a different version. And the way Anushka Sharma does it, some of the things she does is in line with what someone with cerebral palsy will experience. Was her acting consistent? I didn't even think about that when I was watching it. Perhaps it wasn't, and that's bad on her part. But some people were talking about how, you know, there were things that she was doing that didn't make sense with someone with cerebral palsy because the way Kalki Gaikla did it was the perfect way. And it's like, well, there's just different ways to play it, in my opinion. So, yeah, anyway, some of the positive things I didn't get to in my initial review. Two things in particular that I wanted to talk about. To Anushka Sharma's acting and SRK's acting. I thought their breakup scene before the intermission was great because there was a lot of subtext in that scene, and I thought the way SRK played it was really good. The way Anushka Sharma played it, where she was kind of desperately pleading without pleading too hard, but you could see the tears in her eyes that she was holding back, and you could see SRK struggling, like morally, emotionally, mentally, like he wasn't sure what he should do, but he had this calling for this thing for some reason, and I just really liked how, you know, they played off of each other. I liked how it was shot and edited. I thought it was a very good scene. It wasn't like on the nose dialogue. It was Anushka Sharma trying to, you know, I just like the scene. I'm not gonna say any more than that. You guys get my point. The dance competition, I thought, broke the rules of movies, and I liked it because normally when you have that, you have to kind of go through this pyramid with the character until he gets to the top. Even if it's a montage, you have to kind of go through this whole tournament, and it's kind of annoying because you often know where the movie's going. It's like you can predict where it's going, and the film kind of skips all that and goes, you know what's going to happen. You know SRK is going to get to the end of this so he can meet the actress of his dreams. So let's just get to that scene. And I really dug that. So I thought that was cool how they broke the rules there. So those are two really big positive things that I appreciated. The other thing I appreciated, I haven't quite figured out how to articulate yet. I was actually unsure as to whether or not I was going to say this part, but there's something in there philosophically about SRK's character, about this guy who has the audacity to, there's something there, and I'm kind of fumbling with my words right now because he had this beautiful, intelligent person in front of him, and he is not like, how's the perfect way to phrase this? He's not the perfect man in the movie. He's far from perfect. He's, you know, he's got his limited stature, and he's kind of a selfish character, and he doesn't even have like a proper job. He's leeching off of his father, and yet he has the audacity to kind of blow this woman off who is willing to see past his limitations in favor of someone he doesn't know, in favor of some, basically, for all intents and purposes, an illusion. And I feel like there's something worth noting there that's important. But like I said, I'm kind of fumbling to explain it and express it properly because I haven't fully figured out what it is that's speaking to me from that. All right, so let's go into the comments now. Let's see, let's click this off. This is not necessarily something I'm responding to. I just thought this was an interesting back and forth I wanted to share with you guys. So you'll have to bear with me. It's going to take a second to get through these comments right here. So this is Swapnil and Kalpesh. I might not read the entirety of the comment, just the point of it. So Swapnil, I asked why Anushka Sharma had a gun in the movie. So Swapnil goes, why she has a gun? Because she is in USA. Really, you didn't get it? Kalpesh responds, a gun inside the main conference hall of a space research institute, provided everyone is scanned or frisked before even entering the premises. Yes, totally makes sense. And also, she was expecting him? Swapnil responds, why can't she carry a gun every time? Kalpesh responds, why would she? Is she a physicist or a cop? A gun in the hands of someone with cerebral palsy inside a space research center. Okay. Swapnil responds, in America, it is normal to have gun. You van buy gun from mall within T minutes. Kalpesh responds, I think you are missing my point, and you are also not aware of the policies and checks that are in place when you want to own a gun in the USA. I have lived and worked both in USA and Europe. Even if one gets a gun easily, they wouldn't be able to sneak it into a space research center, that too in the middle of a conference, especially a scientist and one with cerebral palsy. And then the follow-up, this keeps going. Swapnil goes, that's not sloppy writing. If you think that way about every movie, ever wonder why Thanos speak English? Sometimes you take cinematic liberties. How she has gun in that hall was not important. Important thing about that scene was it showed her anger for him accurately. Then why don't we use logic for every movie? We neglect logic in movies that we love, and we love to use logic in movies that we don't love. Why no one complain about whole universe speaking English except Wakand? I don't know what that means. People use logic according to their mood. And one thing, just wanted to tell you, Javi said there was a whole movie Martian about how someone survived on Mars, but this film didn't bother to explain. But in fact, the movie need not do that because Rocket went missing while coming back to Earth. He never stayed on Mars, and whole journey he was in asleep. Kalpesh, I have no qualms over cinematic liberties as long as the movie doesn't fail to suspend my disbelief. And you are comparing a comic book movie to a romantic drama, so already your arguments don't make sense. Movies need to have consistency in writing. So that actually is a very good point. I think he follows up. He does follow up. Let's keep going. Swapnil goes, we were talking about logic. What comic book movies don't need logic and romantic movies must need logic? That's a new piece of info. You must be tired, get some rest. Kalpesh responds, you are unaware of how different genres work. And I was talking about the logic within the world that is created, but you fail to understand what I write time and again. Okay, this is kind of angry banter, but the genres thing is important. That's what I wanted to touch on, because when I was commenting about the bad science in the movie, people were going, well, how come you accept bad science in Marvel movies? And it's because Marvel is a fantasy comic book movie. It's not a romantic drama where I'm not expecting weird things to happen. Hold on, I think I lost my train of thought for a second. So with the Marvel films, there is this thing you're buying into right away. With Thanos or Spider-Man, like you're expecting it to be very fantastical and out of this world and things to be incredibly unrealistic. You're going in expecting to suspend your disbelief. Now, there are some instances where I think that it goes too far, and I might get into that later. But for the most part, I accept everything going in because it's a fantasy film. Whereas Zero is a romantic drama. I didn't know I was watching a film where things were just going to completely break the rules of physics. And I didn't know I was watching a film about a guy who wanted to become an astronaut. That came out of left field because it wasn't set up. We'll get into the setup thing later on in this video if it comes up again. But setups are a huge thing when it comes to movies. For me, because I was raised on American cinema or Western cinema, if you set up something, then you can almost get away with anything. For instance, there's a movie called John Q. At the beginning, they set up that this woman gets into a car accident. You don't know why, you don't know what that's about. And then later on in the movie, you find out that woman who had a car accident is a donor, an organ donor. And Denzel Washington's kid needs a heart transplant. And it comes up like towards the end of the movie that, oh, this woman just had an accident and her organs are on the way, right? So because they set it up, you accept it later on. But if that initial scene never happened, and out of nowhere at the 90-minute mark, they're like, oh, wait, we have an organ donor that's coming in, it would feel unrealistic. I mean, you have to watch the movie to understand what I'm talking about, but that kind of gives you a vague idea or somewhat of an understanding of what it means to set something up and then pay it off later on. But like if in Interstellar, you've got this drama, this sci-fi drama, and 3/4 of the way into the movie, if Thor showed up all of a sudden, this superhero, and guided Matthew McConaughey to safety through the last 30 minutes of the movie, that would be weird. It would be breaking the rules. It wasn't set up properly. We didn't know we were watching a superhero movie in advance. We thought we were watching a sci-fi drama. So that would be two genres that clash, number one, and that would be that's not set up properly, so it would feel weird. Anyway, hopefully that explains where I'm coming from. I said I was going to talk about it later, but I just talked about it now, which was kind of silly. Anyway, let's keep going here on this back and forth, if it's worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it. This is just, okay. Anyway. Movie edits. Well, I think you're bad at physics. I am bad at physics. I have a cursory understanding of it, just a very basic understanding of it from what I learned in school. I didn't do great at physics, and from what I've watched of the multitude of science videos that I've watched. He goes, first of all, 15 years was for the people on Earth. When you travel faster, time slows down for you. So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, he's talking about the theory of relativity. A long time ago, this was tested. They had something called an atomic clock, 2 atomic clocks. They left one on the ground, and they put one in an airplane that went really, really fast. It went up, went fast, came back, landed, and they compared the two clocks, and one was 1 second off. And that illustrated how if you're going really fast, there is like this time disparity, this time dilation that happens where time moves slower for you, or it moves faster for people on the ground, whatever. Now, that being said, I really don't think SRK's character would have been going fast enough for this to be applicable. Because if he was going that fast, where time was totally different for people on Earth, he would have gone to Mars and back within less than a month. Like, if that. Like, we're talking light speed. One of the theories of light speed is if you're able to move at light speed away from Earth and you had a powerful enough telescope to look back at Earth, you could theoretically witness your own birth, because like light speed is weird like that. And I don't think SRK was using that kind of technology. He was using rocket fuel boosters to get out of Earth's atmosphere into Mars. He wasn't using anything that could come anywhere near the speed of light, as far as the movie illustrated. So this is illustrating that movie edits is also bad at physics. Let's see. This is a long one. Let me see if I can skim through this. It's an epic disappointment for me that Jaby is this much frustrated. Have you ever given a movie 1.5 before? I gave Predators a 1. I wanted to give it a 0, but I gave it a 1. And I don't know what I gave Helicopter Eli. I think I gave that a 1 or a 2. Some other film I forgot. I've given films like bad scores before, but yeah. Anyway, I don't think this is I don't think so. Worst movies have got praise from you. Okay. Didn't you see an alien in the form of a man in PK? Isn't that illogical? No, because it's set up like I illustrated earlier with John Q. The movie introduces Amir Khan as an alien at the beginning of the film, and so the rest of the film is informed by that. The whole film is about his reception of the human experience, of human behavior, his witnessing of this, and how weird it is to an alien who's never experienced it before. That's the whole movie. And so it's very consistent. If, however, Amir Khan was a relatively normal person through most of the film, and then at the 90-minute mark you find out he's an alien when it's never been set up, that would be strange. Let's see. Why would you focus on Anushka Sharma, Anushka and Bao in the anti-gravity chamber? Focus on their acting, emotions, and feelings. I would have loved to. I wanted to. I just was really thrown by the anti-gravity chamber, which will come up again in other comments, so I'm not going to talk about that now. I know you are not Indian, but do some research. I've said this many times, I don't do research before trailers or movies if I can help it. Every now and then I will, but I try not to because I want whatever I'm watching to hit me as raw as possible. If I research in advance, then it's going to curb my viewing of it, and it's going to influence my viewing of it in a way that I don't want it to. If I can get away with it, sometimes I'll watch a movie without watching a trailer, which I know is ironic given that I do trailer reactions a lot on my channel. But every now and then I'll watch a film without watching a trailer, and it's kind of exciting because you have no idea what you're in for. I did that recently with a Japanese movie called Shoplifters. If you guys want to see my review on that, it's on youtube.com/JabyTV. So, paid critics like Taran, hold on. I know you're not Indian, but you do some research. You're being like paid reviewers of Hindi cinema. Paid critics like Taran Adarsh are a joke. Their reviews are a joke. They did give Devadas 1.5 to Unchuck to India or to Basante. I know you have watched their reviews. That's why you give the movie 1.5. I didn't watch anybody's reviews. The only, the closest in proximity I came to that was looking at the general Rotten Tomatoes scores, which you guys saw in my initial review, and the IMDb score, which you also saw in my initial review. I didn't read specific information before doing my review. What you saw was me raw expressing my feelings about the film. So, let's see, anyway, let's move on. Oh wait, he did say something else that I wanted to talk about. It was a unique story of a love triangle between a dwarf, a NASA scientist with cerebral palsy, and an alcoholic Bollywood actress. And I want to say I agree with you. It was a unique story. It was a unique premise. It was a unique setup, and I do like that the premise of the story. It's very interesting, actually. It's just that my feelings about the film got really kind of messed up by that last 30 minutes with the whole Space Center thing. Let's see. There is an anti-gravity chamber. The reason I included this comment is because of what this guy responds. I think he does a good job of expressing it. Utkarsh says, ISS is subjected to 90% of Earth's gravity. The only reason astronauts feel weightlessness because the ISS is in a constant free fall countered by forward motion. There is no such thing as anti-gravity because it's not an electromagnetic or similar sort of phenomena. It is felt because of masses exerting force. The heavier the mass, the greater the gravitational pull at a specific distance. There is no way in hell to counter a mass. So essentially what he's saying is there's no anti-gravity chamber. And he's doing a good job of explaining like why, you know, weightlessness is felt in space stations and whatnot. All right, here we go. Salman Sheikh. He was alive for 15 years because he was in a cryogenic state. Anushka's character does say so in the movie. And then Krishna responds, why will the ship have a cryogenic chamber? It's not even meant for deep space travel. So this is actually a good response. I don't like that he said, are you stupid? But it's a good response. The reason why is because you wouldn't necessarily use a cryogenic bed, a cryogenic chamber, if you're just going to Mars. You'd use it if you're going way beyond Mars, like 50 years travel or something insane, where you would need a cryogenic chamber to preserve your life and keep you going so you can be alive to research when you get to your destination or whatever the case might be. So from a scientific standpoint, it doesn't seem realistic that he would have a cryogenic chamber. So there's that. You know, it's up to you whether or not you care about that. I just thought that was an interesting response. But the thing about the cryogenic chamber that makes me curious is the return ship that Shahrukh Khan comes in on is much smaller than his departure ship. I mean, I have no idea for sure. I might be remembering it wrong, but it looked much smaller. And I don't know that you could fit a cryogenic chamber inside that much smaller ship. Who knows? Maybe you could. I don't know. But maybe that's getting nitpicky. Okay, let's see. Speak the truth. You've just watched KGF and then you watch this pile of shit. No, I watched Zero first and then I watched KGF. It's like going back in time. You must admit to yourself, you might as well admit yourself into a hospital and ask for a brain transplant. Brain transplants are not a thing. The reason Zero has gotten high ratings is because of SRK influence and his crybaby fans. Well, you're not winning anybody over by calling them crybaby fans. Bollywood is an expert at manipulating film goers. All films are designed to manipulate film goers. The whole point is you are agreeing to have your emotions manipulated. You are suspending your disbelief and buying into, agreeing to this artificial reality for 2 hours. So you are being manipulated by any movie that you decide to watch and enjoy. It also is released on more screens compared to KGF. I did hear that, and KGF is keeping neck and neck with it, if not doing better, is what I've heard. And so for that to be the case, even though it's got fewer screens, is impressive. It is impressive. I mean, I admit that, you know. The fact that it's beating out Zero, if it is still by the time this video comes out, that is impressive. Bollywood creates a lot of business, so why would people want to piss off Bollywood? Many sites, many Bollywood affiliates will kiss SRK and place high ratings. I don't agree with that. I've seen bad reviews. I've seen bad ratings for films. I don't agree with that. And the other harsh reality is SRK fans are brainless, dumb zombies. You are winning nobody over by saying that. When you repeat the story in your own mind, you've got to ask, what is so original? Now, I mean, I'm sure there are people who are SRK fans or Salman Khan fans or whatever who are way more lenient of things. It's very possible. But calling them brainless, dumb zombies is incredibly harsh. I do not agree with that language, but maybe I've said worse. So, an aging dwarf proposing to a disabled guy. Let's see. Yeah, anyway. I also disagreed with something else he said here. I just don't remember what it is. Okay, here it is. An aging dwarf proposes to a disabled, ugly girl for marriage. I don't think she was ugly. I thought she was beautiful. Then dumps her for a slutty, sexy girl. She was not a slut. Her ex-boyfriend was a slut. She just dressed very sexy. We see this daily with older men chasing after young women, and here we have Bollywood's love triangle. See, I think that's speaking to what I felt earlier. That the audacity to do certain things that you kind of shouldn't, you maybe shouldn't, that you should kind of think about and be mature about in your approach. So there's a positive sort of in this comment, kind of. Let's move on. Okay, Mima, thanks for mentioning how God, I can't speak anymore. It's late. Thanks for mentioning how mind-bogglingly absurd and frustrating the science and logical inaccuracy of the movie was. Another thing that made me go WTF was Maddie asking Anushka if her math is right twice in the movie. A scientist working on a Mars mission wouldn't ask a colleague, especially one senior to him in the field, to make sure that the math is right. While I agree with that from a logical standpoint, from an emotional place, from a scriptwriting place, I forgave that in the moment because he wasn't actually asking her about her actual math. He was asking her about something going on with her internally, emotionally. That's why I forgave it, even though it's silly. Because you're right, he wouldn't ask. Let's see. This is my favorite comment. Just Pakistani. Stupid review. I was expecting a negative review from you because you didn't react to its songs too. And you have done a video chat with Yash too. So it's predictable. Paid. I thought that was hilarious because like I wasn't paid by anybody for these reviews. I paid to watch the movies. So anyway. Tanvir Ali. After the intermission, I thought I got into a different auditorium. I included that because I thought that was funny. Let's see. Pooja Sharma. I have not watched it yet, but after your review, I really don't want to go to see it. My plan has changed now. I'm going to watch KGF. Thanks for your honest review. I don't think you were ever planning to watch Zero. And maybe I slightly tipped you in favor of watching KGF instead of Zero because of my negative review. But yeah, I'd say watch Zero anyway. Don't not watch it just because. If you had even a cursory interest in it, I would say go watch it. It's worth watching. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch, but it's worth watching. Sachin. So, it was fine when Michael Bay did it in Armageddon. I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth now. That's I call that a scarecrow tactic. A red herring. I didn't say that. I will give Armageddon credit for the fact that it is consistent. You know what you're getting right away. You are watching a space movie, a sci-fi space movie about oil riggers being sent up to an asteroid to blow it in half so it misses the Earth. You know this like at the beginning of the movie, and it doesn't change. It's a really silly movie all the way through. It doesn't surprise you with anything like that. It's like it's a consistent film. Whereas in Zero, the space thing comes up at the very end, like at the very last 30 minutes of the movie. So while Armageddon has terrible science and the premise is ridiculous, it's at least consistent. And it's got some pretty awesome visual effects. Hammad Ahmed, bro, whatever you said about the movie is acceptable, but please don't judge SRK's acting. You don't know 1% of it. He's a great actor, performer in the last 3 decades. I would say I know more than 1% of it. I know that I don't speak the language, but again, from my limited perspective, there were moments of greatness that I thought he did great acting sometimes throughout the film. There were times where he hit it just right, but there were other times where, for me, as an outsider, it just felt melodramatic in a way that I didn't appreciate, in a way that I would have preferred done differently. More nuanced, more like, I guess, Nawazuddin Siddiqui or, I don't know, any other Indian actor that has mastered the, grounding themselves more. And so SRK goes back and forth. That's why when I did my review for Rise, I'll never say that name correctly, it felt like SRK and Nawazuddin Siddiqui were in 2 different movies because their acting styles were very different. SRK felt like he was kind of going in and out of the melodrama and like kind of really pushing it and then going back to something real, whereas Nawazuddin Siddiqui was always grounded, always real. So that's what I was talking about or Achara and I were talking about when we said that his acting was sometimes hit and miss. There were times where it was really good. Like that breakup scene I talked about earlier. Sometimes it was really good. And the way he handled, I don't know what it's like to handle that kind of forced perspective and visual effects stuff to the extent that he did. So I commend him for all that. Let's see. Nabob Karmakar. No, I like this movie very much. And Science, Marvel, and DC show all fake, but we watch that. So again, Marvel and DC shows and movies are comic book fantasy stories that you're buying into right away. So let's see. Sanket, Ron Pies, Jaby, I totally agree with you. The movie has flaws, but the performance of all 3 stars are brilliant. It's just bad writing. You can't blame SRK for this. I did not blame him for anything like that. I only hold him accountable for his acting. Anubhav Karmakar, are you guys dumb? He meant dumb. I just think it's hilarious whenever someone tries to call you stupid, idiot, dumb, or anything that is mocking your intelligence, and yet they're spelling the word wrong. That's just perfect. When the star things happened, they were drunk. No, they weren't. Not all the time. Maybe once in the film, but there were 2 other instances where they weren't drunk. Milan, Nayak, logic, really? Then tell me why Common Man became Spider-Man bitten by a spider. He was bitten by a radioactive spider in a fantasy film. So, Prashanth, Rajjha. Jaby Nachara, I've been watching your videos from past 2 years. My friend insists me to watch your videos, but he is no more now. So, I think what you're saying, Prashanth, is that your friend passed away, and the only reason I included your comment was so that I can say to you, my condolences. I'm sorry that you had to deal with your friend passing away. I know how hard that is, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with that. So stay strong. Daniel Prakash, I absolutely agree, Jaby. So I watched Zero here in Melbourne, Australia. For those who don't know, in the first half, had me loving it, especially since I call myself the biggest Fiji Indian SRK fan in Melbourne. But 15 minutes into the second half, had me just waiting for the movie to end because it felt as if the writers had no clue where they were going to take this film, take this movie into the second half. LOL. The ending was disappointing, especially since it randomly moves on to 15 years later. So, I agree with your feelings about the second half for the most part, but just want to say, like, using 15 years later as a tool in movies is not a bad thing. It's just how you use it. And if him being lost in space made sense, I would be fine with the 15 years later thing. But the science behind it makes 0 sense. Wow. It makes 0 sense, though. It doesn't make any sense. Movie Lover 89. Anushka Sharma's performance was the worst and horribly inaccurate. Go watch Margarita with a Straw. See, that's what I was talking about. Is a lot of people felt like this. And while Kalki Koechlin did an amazing job, I mean, she's one of my favorite Indian actresses. She did an amazing job. It's not the only way to do cerebral palsy. Anyway, let's see. Saif Ali, your whole rant about the anti-gravity chamber is literally the stupidest thing I've heard in a long while. First of all, it wasn't anti-gravity, it was zero gravity. There's a difference. I don't know why you feel there's a difference. If something is anti-gravity to the point of 0 gravity, it's still anti-gravity. Zero gravity is under the umbrella of anti-gravity. It's just a degree of anti-gravity. Artificial zero gravity chambers are there on Earth, and a simple Google. I would love for you to comment on this video with a link to what you're talking about, because if we had achieved anti-gravity chambers, if we had achieved that kind of technology, that would be a massive breakthrough for humanity, in my opinion. And I feel like we would all know unequivocally, there would be no doubt, we would know about this. Just as ubiquitous as E equals MC square is, I feel like we would all know about this anti-gravity chamber thing. I think we would all have heard about it. So that's, anyway, I need a link. Show me some proof, man. Vijay Bhargava. Bad science in a movie is the biggest turnoff for me, too. I had a problem with him even going to space in the trailer. It's not like you decide you're going to space and you get to do it in an instant. I agree. There's a lot of training, medical standards, technical knowledge required. Now, just to counter that, to play devil's advocate, there was a lot of training in the movie. It's how he got to the training that didn't make sense to me. But the reason it doesn't make sense is because, just to finish this out, similarly in Jab Tak Hai John, he became an army officer just like that after roaming around in the streets singing for money. So at NASA or any space center like NASA, I'm pretty sure you're going to have teams of people who have been training to be an astronaut. And to be passed up for some random stranger waiting in a line outside the building makes no sense. It just doesn't. It's like, I understand that I'm supposed to suspend my disbelief for a movie, but if that were to be an actual thing, it would be conducted online where people submit their reasons for why they would be part of the thing, and then eventually they'd be kind of weeded out. Like, it would be narrowed down to a handful of people who would be brought in person, and then one person would be selected to go with a team of other people, not by themselves. They wouldn't send one person alone on this kind of. It's like all of the explanations in the world don't make sense as to why you would send just one person on the first mission To Mars, or whether it's just going back and forth or landing, like whatever happened in the movie, it doesn't make sense to send some random person there. It just doesn't. So as much as you train them, like you would send a pro astronaut who has like all of the knowledge, even if you're just putting them in a cryo sleep situation, like you would send someone with knowledge already, not someone brand new. Let's see. Lazy creator, thanks Jaby. That's what I want to see from you more often. Tell it how it is. While that's a fair accusation, I always express my feelings. I might nuance it because I don't want to come off as an asshole. Like I might nuance it in such a way that like it's like, as you know, like a friend's showing me something, so I'm going to express it a certain way so that it's constructive. At least I want it to be constructive, and I look for the positives in things because that is going to be more helpful in the long run. And I do try to talk about the negative things, but I try not to go about it with such a bad attitude. And I think that I did that with the Zero review, which I should not have done. Even though most of the people who watched the video appreciated it, most of the people in the comments appreciated the video, and I acknowledge that. I don't like coming off like a big jerk because I wouldn't want someone to do that to my movie. So, my point in saying all this is that I am always expressing myself honestly. It's just the way I do it. I might use a certain technique to get that point, that feeling across. Ketul Mystery. It's not a film, it's feeling. It requires big heart to understand. My mom tried to use that on me with Passion of the Christ. She tried to say, it's not a movie, it's an experience. And I'm like, no, it's a movie that you experienced. It's a film that you had an experience with. You can't just, like, if it's shot and edited and then, you know, put out there for you to watch, it's a movie. Like, so to like over romanticize something like that, I feel like is very dangerous. Watched many videos on your channel, and this is very worst review of you guys. 1.5 star for your review. Well, it's not a review; it's a feeling of rage. I mean, I did come off pretty angry in that review. Prakash Chan, the most illogical person, Jaby KOAY. Did you ever thought from where the Hulk gets its extra huge body when he becomes angry from a normal sized body? Or have you ever thought how much fuel does Iron Man take in his small suit that he can fly to another planet? So, okay, that's the Iron Man one is what I wanted to talk about. That is weird. I don't know where he keeps all the fuel. I don't know how that works. It is kind of crazy. Like, even the nanomachines thing kind of trips me out. I don't know how that works. But I just try to check my brain at the door whenever things like that happen. It's like, it's pushing it a little bit for me with Iron Man, I will admit. The thing that bothered me the most was in Iron Man 2 when he was carrying around his suit in a briefcase. I'm like, how is he carrying around this heavy suit unless it's made out of carbon fiber, which is not. It's not iron because that's a misnomer according to one of the movies, but like it can't be that light that he can just toss it around like a pillow. Anyway, yeah, so whatever. Pratham Singh, I actually liked it as the movie established itself to be aware about its surroundings. I mean, you bought for a fact that the guy can initiate shooting stars by counting, but couldn't wrap your head around the science behind it. That's a fair rebuttal. What I didn't say in my initial reviews, I didn't love it. I just kind of accepted it reluctantly because it was just happening in the movie. I'm like, okay, you get one magic thing you get to do. I don't know what this means. And they used it as a tool to express that SRK's passion went away when he couldn't do it, and then his passion came back. He felt alive again when he came back to Anushka Sharma, when he found something worth fighting for again, or something. Like, it meant, it was symbolic of something. So, yeah, I'm just because I accept the shooting star thing doesn't mean I'm going to accept everything else in the movie. A. Rahul, he was alive for 15 years because he was in cryogenic state. Anushka says that in the movie. Yeah, but there's something weird there. Like, okay, first off, he wouldn't be missing for 15 years. We would know exactly where he is. In the movie, they said, Anushka Sharma says she didn't know where he was. He kind of disappeared for a while, and then he reappeared out of nowhere like magic. And the reason that doesn't make sense is because we're able to track, at least receive signals from stuff we put into space. Even the very first Voyager satellite that we put into space, we're still getting signals back from that. You think that we wouldn't be able to manifest the technology to track where SRK is going so that we know where he is for 15 years? Or to maybe go out and get him or something? Like, I feel like given all the other technology established in the movie, it just doesn't make sense that we wouldn't know where he went. Unless he went into some kind of Bermuda Triangle in space, it doesn't make sense. Ranjith Rajpurohit, is this the real Jaby that has been hiding in all of the reactions being fake, or he's real in all of the reactions and being so harsh to this movie just because he's supporting KGF? I already went over that a couple times. So, DC Singh, good review, but still I will watch this movie in cinema. I completely agree with that. Watch it anyway, make your own opinion, and then come back and see how you feel about mine. I mean, that to me, that's the point. I rarely say don't watch something. Rarely. Every once in a great while, I will say that. But I did not do that with Zero. Cigar, food supply. Dude, they already said he was going to sleep the whole time. They said Monkey was going to be sent, but he had to do nothing, so that's why they sent Bao instead. Did you guys even watch the movie? I didn't agree with the monkey thing to begin with. There was stuff about the monkey that just really bothered me. Like when SRK was waiting to go on the ship, the monkey comes and hugs, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, they just got a monkey walking around? Like, this wild animal, as trained as he might be, we already established that he can get really crazy. When Anushka Sharma pulled out that gun, we established that that monkey might lose its mind. So for him to just be walking around like whatever, that didn't make sense to me. And to be sending a monkey all the way to Mars doesn't make sense either. The reason, if you look up why we used monkeys in the space program initially, was just because they are the closest thing to a human being, and the monkey didn't have to do much. It just needed to be there in the machine, go into space and come back. The monkey didn't actually have to use any technical knowledge, at least not a whole lot, from what I recollect. It's been a while since I've dove into that, so maybe I need to refresh my memory on it and research it again. But from what I remember, the monkeys didn't have to do a whole lot. And they were mostly used as just guinea pigs to see if something like a human being can survive in these extreme circumstances, in these extreme environments, I should say. So here we go. Next, Ruchik Kashyap. You were just mentioning stressing the last few minutes of the movie and criticizing it badly. I agree. I did do that. I think you should also talk about the whole movie. I know it's frustrating about the ending part, but it doesn't deserve criticism for 20 minutes straight for its ending instead of talking in detail about other things like acting, direction, VFX, and all. Real quick, at the beginning, you said last few minutes of the movie. It wasn't the last few minutes. It was the last 30 minutes, which is quite significant. And if it was just the last few minutes, it'd be even worse. Acting, direction. I talked about the acting and direction and VFX lightly. I did talk about it. I could have talked about it more, but I did talk about it. I know script is weird and it derails movie completely, but it doesn't mean you have to talk in detail only about the script and nothing else. I agree with that notion, but I did talk about other things. Just not to the extent you might have wanted. Nilay Panchal. Jaby Shahrukh was fantastic in the movie, but let me do that again. Jaby Shahrukh was fantastic in the movie. He shines, and anti-gravity chambers do exist. Apologize, but American movies like Avengers have ships that can go invisible. You are being racist and partial. I only included this because I thought it was hilarious that he said you're being racist. How exactly? Okay, this is the last one. Shreya Agarwal, you don't even understand the basic Hindi fun dialogues. How can you review a movie based on the translation that you have to read every scene? You won't understand the characters and how people are of me rude. Okay, so if you're watching my review, you already know my limitation, and you're just hurting yourself if you're getting mad about that limitation when you already know that before you even hit play on my video. So I'm sorry. I can't do anything about that right away. So, I mean, even if I started learning Hindi right now and I mastered the language, there would still be so much that I don't understand and don't get. I mean, there's even limitations within my own culture when I'm watching a superhero movie. There are things that happen I don't necessarily like that other people appreciate because they've read the comic books. Namely, there was this fight scene in the beginning of Captain America Winter Soldier that I didn't understand why it existed while they were on the ship. And I got angry about it, and other people were telling me, well, it's a nod to the comic books. That guy's from the comic books. I'm like, yeah, but as a movie, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, so yeah. Let's see. If you find some... Oh, okay. Probably you won't even know where Mirud is. I don't know where Mirud is. If you find some stupid science in it, I just want to comment on the amazing science that American movies show that is aliens invading New York, which is so real, right? Well, if you're talking about Avengers, they established the aliens at the beginning of the movie. They show the aliens invading New York, and the aliens are an adversary, and the antagonists in the film. So it's pretty consistent. It's a sci-fi film, sci-fi fantasy film. Some such dumb-witted people out there. So sad. Anyway, I did find it interesting that she says, I just want to comment on the amazing science that American movies show. There's this assumption that's happening that I am attacking Indian films. I attack American movies harder according to my fans, and according to my followers, according to my subscribers, according to the people who watch my channel. I apparently attack American films harder. I don't think that I do, but so you can't win. It's just one of those things. You can't please everybody. You're assuming that I'm criticizing the film harder because it's an Indian film. But I'm not. I'm criticizing it like I would criticize an American film. So, yeah, there. Hopefully this illuminates some things for you guys. Hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully I got to enough comments that kind of represent the general feeling of people who had, some issues on both ends. I know that I focused more on the negative reviews, but I think that might make it more interesting for you guys because it's like me kind of debating. And I think debating could be more interesting to watch. So that's it. Hopefully this was enjoyable, and I apologize if it was not, if it was boring. But, oh, look, my hair has just been messed. I felt that. I felt that. I clicked out of my monitor because I didn't want to see myself, and then my hair fell down, and it's just been like that for probably a long time. Yeah, so... That's real cute. That's so annoying. I didn't want to be distracted by looking at myself in the monitor, so I hid the monitor from my viewing, and then that's what happened. That's what I get for that. Okay, you guys, thanks so much for hanging out, and y'all are lovely and awesome. Thank you so much for watching my videos, and thank you for putting up with my angry review. And I apologize again for that. I feel like that was unprofessional of me, and I shouldn't have done that. And I will work on that in the future when a film upsets me. I'm not going to hide my feelings, but I'm going to try to handle it more professionally in the future. That was just kind of bad on my part, and I apologize. You guys, I love y'all. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'm Jaby KOAY. Peace out.